Welcome everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Yvonne Davis, an astrologer and author of The Power of Manifestation, Creating a Life You Love. And it's time for another video to explore what's coming up astrologically for Donald Trump. And I'm calling this the cat's out of the bag for Donald Trump because I think that we're really gonna start seeing something now. I mean, we thought that he would be gone by now, because how could this person still be holding on to any kind of power after everything that's come out already? But I think that now things are really going to change, because not only because of the astrological alignments, but also because two things are different now that did not exist before. One being the new Congress. This is already bringing about significant change, and also the release of the Mueller report. It has been released. It hasn't been made public yet for obvious reasons. Well, they may not be obvious to everyone, but basically Congress has to make it public. It's not going to be public on its own, but it has been released. So at least that much has happened so far. So these two things are making a significant difference, and I think that we're really going to start to see things unfold now in a direction where obviously Donald Trump is still going to lie, because he is a pathological liar. He's not capable of telling the truth, but there will be so much more information out that is irrefutable evidence. And so anyone who, like, I've had people come to my channel and say, what are you talking about, Donald Trump lying? He's the greatest thing that's ever happened in this country. And obviously they're not paying attention, except maybe to Fox News and some other sources that are either skewing the truth completely or not showing the truth. But there are enough legitimate news media out there that are doing the job of the free press, which is to bring the facts to light. And the evidence is becoming irrefutable, and it will just continue to be revealed and be revealed and be revealed. And that's what I've seen in the reading. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up the chart now so that you can take a look at that. Okay, so this is for the Libra Aries full moon on March 20th, which is coming up in only about 5 days from now. So we're getting pretty close to this full moon. And we're already starting to see revelations. That's what this chart is telling me. When I saw this, the full moon basically illuminating his Neptune, because as I've mentioned, those of you who've been following my channel know that I have mentioned many, many times the fact that Mercury is in his 12th house of things that are hidden and secrets, and is squaring his Neptune, which can be all about deceit and deception and hiding things. That's the shadow side of Neptune. So the fact that these two are squaring each other is, I think, the natal indication of Donald Trump's karma as a pathological liar. And he's really coming into a time in his life where the karmic forces are going to be impinging on him so intensely that he will probably be brought down. I'm thinking similar to what has happened to Paul Manafort. Paul Manafort is still dealing with more charges against him, and he's already facing 7.5 years in jail, which for some of us, we may think that's That's not a very long sentence, but considering he's 70 years old, it is pretty significant, and it's not going to be a fun way to spend those years, that's for sure. So yeah, I think the case against Paul Manafort and the case against Cohen are just sort of reflections of what ultimately Donald Trump will be facing, similar or possibly even more difficult. As far as impeachment goes, I'm still not sure if that's what will end up happening, but certainly the investigations that are coming out, they're already revealing, I mean, there's already evidence of the crimes he's committed. So that's not even in question anymore. The only question is, when is he going to be charged with the crimes that he's committed, and who is going to bring those charges, and when will they be brought, and what will that look like? Because certainly in some ways he is insulated by the office of the presidency, but he's not being completely insulated by it. So this actually may be quite revolutionary in terms of how our country is run and how our government is run, because so many questions have been brought up through his presidency about how much power a president can actually have. Can they be above the law? We already know the answer to that question is no. However, I think other presidents have lied and probably even committed crimes, but in some ways they were insulated by the office of the presidency. But we've seen that that's becoming less and less true. Clinton had obviously had to take a lot of flack and lost millions and millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars in legal fees because of what he had to deal with for his own actions. And by the way, I want to make very clear that I'm not an apologist for any Democratic politician who misbehaves. So, you know, it's not a political issue. It's about being an honest person and, you know, telling the truth and not committing crimes. You know, that's what we should expect in our leaders, that they tell the truth and they don't commit crimes. So, so it'll be interesting to see how this all unfolds, because I don't think it's just about Donald Trump. I think it's about our nation in general. But anyway, that's why I was really fascinated when I saw that the full moon is illuminating this Neptune, because really that is what is unfolding, is the illumination of this lifetime of pathological lying and all these lies, this deceit, this deception that is just like layers upon layers upon layers upon layers that have accumulated over the course of his lifetime. And we're beginning to see the illumination of this. So I think that's what this full moon is about. Now, the other thing I want to point to, which I think is also really important for the revelation of secrets and lies, is this Mercury retrograde, because when we had the new moon conjunct Neptune, just the day before that, we had seen the retrograde of Mercury. So what's interesting to think about is with Mercury, which, you know, is one of these planets that's all about the mind and the communication and the way we speak and the things we say and the way so just everything about thought, mind, and communication. With the in Pisces, and particularly the fact that it crossed Neptune, and then when it went retrograde, it will cross Neptune again. As you can see in this full moon, it's very, very close to Neptune again. So it will make a second conjunction retrograde, and then when it goes direct, it will make a third conjunction with Neptune. And I really think this is about these old lies and the old deceit and the revelation of all of these lies and all of this deceit. I really think that that's what this this Mercury retrograde crossing over Neptune 3 times is all about. So, and plus the fact that it's happening in his 8th house. If any of you are familiar with astrology, you know the 8th house is incredibly powerful. It's incredibly karmic. Actually, the 2 most karmic houses are the 8th house and the 12th house, which is interesting because of the fact that the 12th house is ruled by Neptune in Pisces, and Donald Trump has Neptune in Pisces as his 8th house. So that's really interesting how those 2 are tied together. So this is very karmic, and it also rules intimacy, vulnerability, and deep psychological transformation. Of course, you know, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. So who knows if Donald Trump will ever have any kind of personal awakening, no matter how bad it gets. And it is going to get bad. So that's what I'm seeing with this full moon and this Mercury making its 2nd conjunction to Neptune. And then the third thing I want to point out, which I've been pointing out in all of my readings, is this Pluto moving into conjunction with his vertex, because the vertex is fate. So both of these are very karmic. And the South Node is also moving into conjunction. And between this full moon and the next new moon in Aries 2 weeks later, Pluto will make its conjunction to the South Node. So both of those moving into conjunction with his vertex, which rules fate. So this is unbelievably karmic. And it's also opposing his Saturn-Venus conjunction in the 12th house. So it's incredibly karmic. And then, as I've showed you before, these blue lines are called a quincunx, and that is a karmic readjustment. So we see 2 of them here. One from the Mercury conjunct Neptune, making a quincunx to his Jupiter. And Jupiter really does rule truth and justice. So, you know, whether or not Donald Trump is capable of that, we have not seen. But this is what the karmic alignments are attempting to bring about. And then the Sun here is also making a quincunx to his ascendant. And then we've got what I call the rack of doom. That's 2 parallel quincunx lines with 2 oppositions in between. You can see it kind of looks like a rack. Like if you guys are familiar with Game of Thrones, and who isn't familiar with Game of Thrones, you might remember that one character who was forced to, actually the one character who liked to put people on the rack and flail them. So that's the rack of doom, okay? So it's going from this Pluto South Node conjunction to its vertex all the way up to his Sun. And this one is going from Jupiter on his moon all the way over to Saturn, and then the oppositions here. So one more thing I'll say about this, because I'm only going to look at this chart, and then, you know, as every 2 weeks I'm trying to do at least one reading on what's happening for Donald Trump. And one of the things I will say is that by the time the full moon gets around over here, so that's right over his natal Sun opposite his moon, which is actually, he was born on a full moon eclipse. So when the Sun and moon come all the way around here, and they're in a full moon right over his natal full moon, I think in fact, that's about 3 months away. I think that is when, like, what we're going to see coming revealed now is really going to reach a kind of breaking point. I mean, even 3 months seems a long time, but, you know, we're already over 2 years into this. But I really do think the next 3 months is going to be critical. And we're going to see a ton of stuff revealed. Evidence, you know, like evidence that cannot be denied. And then the question is, what are we going to do about it? Will he be charged? Who will charge him? And when will that happen? So just keep your eyes open for the next 3 months. Okay. So one more thing I wanted to share with you was I did a reading. I used the Soul Cards one by Deborah Chapin because I just think this is one of the most incredible oracle decks I've ever encountered. And so I asked the question, especially with the Cohen hearings, because I mean, that I think was also another trigger point, like a flash point that triggered like a catalyst. And so I wanted to know, you know, what is this going to bring about, and what impact is it going to have on Donald Trump? So when I asked the question, what is it going to bring about, this was the card that came up, which I was really amazed by, because take a look at this. First of all, this is clearly a female form, and she's holding this vessel, and there's all this stuff coming out, just pouring out and pouring out and pouring out. And I do think the colors are interesting too, because she's surrounded by a white light, whereas this stuff coming out is kind of like a darker shade. So what I'm thinking is it's a representation of the light and shadow sides, and this is the shadow side, and all the secrets and deception and all that stuff that's finally pouring forth, because this is Donald Trump's karmic lesson, is that he's been lying his whole life, and the karma is finally taking its toll. What's also interesting over here is you can see a man's face, and although it's kind of hidden, but you can definitely see it over here, this man's face. And then there's these two fingers going up like that, which reminds me of, that was what Nixon did when he left office, when he resigned, because he was about to be impeached. And he said, "I am not a crook." And what's so fascinating was that Roger Stone was photographed making the exact same gesture. You know, I don't know if he actually said, "I am not a crook," but he definitely made that gesture. So I just found that interesting, because that's what it made me think of, with two fingers up like that. So that was a pretty impressive card, because when I saw that, I thought, okay, there's more information to be revealed, which I kind of took for granted, but I was really amazed by the fact that that was a female form. I didn't necessarily expect that. But now we're starting to see more information being revealed regarding the women that Trump had affairs with, and the cover-up around that. And the fact that this is actually one of the linchpins of the crimes that have been committed, just one, which have to do with campaign finance violations. And actually, you know, as you follow the money, they're starting to see all kinds of other things tied to it. And all of these things are crimes that he's committed. The misstatements on his financial statements, that's a crime. Making those misstatements to get bank loans, that's bank fraud. Making misstatements to insurance companies, that's insurance fraud. So there's tons and tons of different kinds of crimes and fraud that's been committed. And that doesn't even touch on anything to do with the whole Russia question. So, yeah, I mean, he is in so much trouble. If he were not the president of the United States and being insulated by that office right now, he would definitely be on his way to jail. There's no doubt about it, just like Paul Manafort and Michael Cohen. And Michael Flynn and Rick Gates have not yet been sentenced, but I mean, we're over, I mean, we're somewhere in the dozens of people, you know, that have been indicted and convicted and have either gone to jail or are on their way to jail. This is definitely not a witch hunt. These people literally committed crimes and are paying the price for that. Okay, so that's the card that came up when I asked what's next for Donald Trump. What is all this, what's coming, basically. I asked the question because of the Cohen hearings. And then I asked them, what impact will it have on Donald Trump? And this is a card that came up. And as you can see, this is a human form, and it looks like this person is falling backward. That looks like the head and the legs and the arms and stuff. But what I've always found fascinating about this card in particular is how twisted and fragmented this person looks. It's not just that they're falling backward, but they are completely twisted, all out of shape. It's all, you can just barely recognize a human form there because it is so twisted and distorted, out of shape. And it doesn't surprise me in a sense, because I think that, in fact, this is already Donald Trump. He's trying to hold it together as best he can. But the truth is, inside, that's what he looks like already. He's completely twisted and distorted, all out of shape. He can hardly keep his stories straight. So, and he's crumbling inside. You know, I saw a video where he, you know, all the time when he's like giving a, you know, saying something to the press, he's like this, like, arms are really tight, and he's kind of like trying to hold it together while he talks to these people he doesn't want to talk to. Yeah, doesn't look like a very happy person. So, I mean, it really does look like he's just trying to literally hold himself together. So, I mean, who knows what happens behind closed doors, but I don't think it's a pretty sight. So that's the reading for today, and I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope you're also experiencing some relief, although I know it's really, really stressful to see this kind of criminality at the highest level of government, someone who's supposed to be our leader, that someone who lies, not only lied in the past, but is a pathological liar and a criminal. There's already irrefutable evidence right now. And the fact that this person is supposedly our leader, it's just, it's pretty hard to, you know, to tolerate and to be at peace with that. But hopefully also, you know, all the things that are happening now are giving you some comfort that he's not going to get away with committing these crimes. So one other thing I want to say is that I was watching some videos like Ari Melber. He's an attorney, and he's one of my favorite reporters because, you know, he's really, like, he takes the law seriously, and the way he presents his arguments, it's like he speaks like with that clarity of you know, like, let's get the facts out here, and he presents everything in such a logical and powerful way. So I had seen some videos that were, I thought, really shocking because of some of the changes that are coming. So I'm going to put those videos, I'm going to pin them in the comments below so you can take a look if you haven't seen them already. Okay, so that's it for today, and I will look forward to seeing all of you again and hearing your comments. And I'm really going to make an effort now from here on out to do at least 2 videos, because the when the new moon and full moon comes, or other important alignments, then I like to be able to show you how that's impacting Donald Trump's chart and his karma. So I'm going to try to do that at least twice a month now. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this, and I will look forward to connecting with you next time. Bye-bye.